everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, darling baby booskers. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. We are a husband and wife couple that have been doing this podcast thing for like a few years now. So you're still in on the ground floor, just so you know. Allison tells me a new episode every single week about some kind of crime, some kind of murder, some kind of something. I have no idea what she's about to talk about for the most part because I hate crime, and she delivers them, and then I try to make some commentary here and there, and we just have a good time. And before we usually talk, we like to just kind of ease into things with like a little bit of coffee talk, a little bit of how things are going. A
little bit of chit chat.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming up on our 4th anniversary of doing this.
Really? When did we start?
2021.
Yeah.
September 30th, somewhere around there. Yeah.
How about that?
I know. It's kind of crazy. It's gone by in a snap.
Yep. You just came home one day. You're like, you know what? I think we could do this. And I was like, well, I love broadcasting. I hate true crime, but you know, if I get half of those things, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride with you.
Yeah. So what's been going on?
The typical stuff. It seems like every time we sit down to do this podcast, I always have to like clear my throat or burp or some kind of disgusting thing that us ladies just apparently don't do.
I have to live with this, unfortunately.
Well,
this whole Allison thing right here, it's unfortunate for me, but that's disgusting. So
it is. And I'm sorry, but I'm drinking carbonated water.
Yeah, so you're just going to make it worse. Our son has been watching a lot of YouTube recently. We don't have cable we're about to buy it because of the NFL Sunday ticket, but we don't have cable, so we usually watch YouTube. Like you've been watching the travel stuff, and he's watching something about some Reddit story, and there was an interesting story today, and wanted to bring up your thoughts. It was about a guy who said that his girlfriend bought a motorcycle, and she wanted him to ride on the back of the motorcycle, like kind of straddle her and everything, so they can ride around town and stuff. And I was trying to, and he's like, I told her I had a problem with riding on the back because I didn't want to like seem like, her
emasculated.
Yeah. And that's like, he's like, I don't know if I had, and then it ended up that the reason he had a problem was that his mom used to drive him to school on a scooter, like a moped, and they used to call him Moped Boy. So that's what he said, which I don't really believe. I think he was just emasculated.
I think he needs to get with the program, have some confidence in himself, and that it doesn't matter if his girlfriend wants to drive the motorcycle, hop on the damn back.
Absolutely. And I am like a total, self-described feminist, but then I started thinking, like, if you got a motorcycle, I don't think I'd want to like straddle you on the back of it.
You would look kind of funny straddling me on the back.
Yeah, I mean, it is an emasculating thing, and it's like it's just because I'm a man, but it doesn't mean I shouldn't be on the back of a motorcycle. I'm really struggling with this.
I think you should have the confidence to do whatever you want to do.
Now, initially, it would feel like I'd be like, whoa, wait, this doesn't feel right.
So what do you think? You're better than me? Is that what you're trying to say? That you're better than me?
No. I just wouldn't want to crush you. That's what I would say. I'd be like, if we got in an accident, you would be dead because I'd just crush you into the car in front of us.
Well, let's call a spade a spade. We'd probably be dead anyway.
Right. That's motorcycles for you. But I really struggled. I'm like, I don't know if I would. I would. If you were like, yeah, this really means a lot to me. I'd be like, okay, I'll straddle you and get behind you.
If you go through life making decisions for what other people are going to think about you, it's not going to be a very happy life because you're living it for someone else and not yourself.
But I'm not thinking of other people. I'm thinking of myself. Feel like,
what would you care if you were on the back of my motorcycle?
I don't know. Like, it's an uncomfortable situation.
What's the problem in your mind?
I don't know. I just don't know what to put my finger on. It's probably just like, you feel like a man should be driving it and a woman should. It's probably just, gender things, and it's not right of me. And I'm trying to work past it. So please just don't get a motorcycle so I don't have to be in this situation.
You've changed my mind. I never wanted a motorcycle. Now I still don't want one. I'm going to get one, and you are going to ride on the back.
We should put something in like AI and like show what it would look like if you were riding a motorcycle.
Funny, though.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. But yeah, anything else going on this week?
Not really. No, I'm kind of boring. What was I saying? We were laughing about something, and I was like, yeah, I'm not on board with your dog and pony party or dance. That's what I said. I'm not on board with your dog and pony dance. And you're like, I think it's the dog and pony show.
Yeah, you're adorable.
And I was like, oh yeah.
You try your best.
That sounds right.
Yeah, you do a good job. We're just a little mom and pop couple over here. We have no major network behind us, but you are still in on the ground floor like I started. So just, go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube and just follow us on your podcast platform, whatever. Help us grow. Tell all your friends and neighbors.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Pa.
And I'm Ma. And we have mugs to prove it.
Yeah, it says it right here. If you don't believe us, our friend Lauren got us these. Look, I'm Pa. It says it right there. You can see it on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, you'll see it's true.
Yeah. So, you want to get this show on the road?
I am ready to jump into this cup of coffee. So this is the murder of Carrie Baker. So shortly after midnight on Saturday, April 8th, 2006, Waco, Texas Baptist preacher, this is 35-year-old Matt Baker, He dialed 911 and calmly told the dispatcher that he thought that his 31-year-old wife, Carrie Baker, just committed suicide. She was laying in their bed, her lips were blue, her hands were cold, and there was a note that he found nearby that said that she was sorry. Since she wasn't breathing and she had no pulse, the dispatcher told him that he needed to move her from the bed to the floor so that he could start CPR until the paramedics responded to the house.
Hey, with 911, do you have an emergency?
Yes, I think my wife just committed suicide.
Tell me exactly what happened.
My wife is laying in the bed, and her lips are blue, are cold, and there's a note that says I'm sorry, basically.
Is she conscious?
No, she's not.
Breathing?
No, she's not breathing at all, no pulse or anything.
Oh, she's got foam or something coming out of her nose. Okay, someone's at the front door. I gotta go.
So when EMTs and police did arrive, Matt led them to their bedroom, but sadly, they were unable to revive Carrie, and she was pronounced dead at the scene at 12:17 a.m. So while all of this chaos was happening, their two daughters, 9-year-old Kenzie and 5-year-old Grace, were blissfully asleep in their beds, having no idea that this was happening. So Matt told investigators that Carrie had been battling depression since they lost their 16-month-old daughter, Cassidy, to a brain tumor, and this happened 7 years earlier in 1999. And he said that despite the passage of time, Carrie wasn't getting better. And as a mom myself, I can't even imagine how one would ever go on after such a tragedy. So Matt, who was a minister at Crossroads Baptist Church in Hewitt, this is 10 miles south of Waco, told investigators that Carrie sent him to the video store that night at 11:15 p.m. and she asked him to rent When a Man Loves a Woman. So this is the 1994 romantic drama starring Meg Ryan and Andy Garcia, and it just so happened to be the movie that they watched on their very first date. So when he came back, he said that he found their bedroom door locked, and then when he got inside, this is when he found Carrie and she wasn't breathing. So investigators reviewed the typed suicide note that included a typed signature, and the note read, "Matt, I am so sorry. I am so tired. I just want to sleep for a while. Please forgive me. Tell Kenzie and Grace that I love them very much. Tell my mom and dad that I love them too. I love you, Matt. I am so sorry for the past few weeks. I want to give Cassidy a hug. I need to feel her again. Please continue to be the great dad to our little girls. Love them every day for me. I am sorry. I love you, Carrie." So officers took photos at the scene, and then they contacted McLennan County Justice of the Peace. And because this was such a small town, they didn't have a medical examiner. So they spoke with the Justice of the Peace over the phone and explained, what evidence they found at the scene. And without going to the house or ordering an autopsy, the Justice of the Peace simply ruled Carrie's death a suicide, and the case was officially closed.
Yeah, seems pretty simple, right?
Yeah. So basically, you could say that there was no investigation really done outside of the fact that they took photos, they read the suicide note, and then they just discussed all of this with the Justice of the Peace over the phone. So Carrie was born on August 13th, 1974, to parents Linda and Scott. She was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. But sadly, her dad died when she was only a baby. And after his death, Linda, who is now suddenly thrust into being a single mom, she decided to relocate to Waco, Texas, in order to be closer to her sister so that she had a support system around her. So once they were settled, this is when Linda met her husband, Jim Doolin, and Carrie was very young at this point. So after they got married, Jim eventually adopted Carrie, and then they went on to have a son together. So Carrie was described as kind, outgoing. She was always surrounded by friends, and she volunteered at homeless shelters. She was very much involved in her Baptist church. So Jim and Linda Doolin were called to their daughter's home on this horrible night that she was pronounced dead at her house. And although they were obviously struggling to accept that Carrie could have been struggling to the point that she would have taken her own life, really, they had no other explanation at the time. So through their immense grief, they were forced to accept what they were being told. So, however, I will tell you very soon, strange little hints began to creep in that led them away from believing that their daughter took her own life, and they started to question, is it possible that Matt was responsible for her death?
So that wasn't something that popped into their head. Like so many times we have stories like this where it's like, wait, you got to look into Matt.
No, it didn't immediately come to the forefront of their mind. So Matt was adamant that Carrie's funeral be as soon as possible. So despite the fact that she died early on Saturday morning, Matt was insisting that her funeral be held as quickly as Monday. So about 10 days after her daughter's funeral, Linda was getting together with her 3 sisters and they were just chatting. And they told her that they had been keeping information that they just didn't want to share with her. But now that Carrie was gone, they felt comfortable enough to share it. They told her that over the years, Matt had come on to several young women. And when Carrie was alive, they just felt like if they told Linda this information, it would just disrupt the whole family, harmony.
Yeah.
So they just didn't.
Well, you're in a church and, you don't want to disrupt everything and divorce and all that. That's messy. Let this sicko go after young ladies.
So, you know how it is. And it's like there had been things that had happened in their marriage where Carrie always took up for her husband. And, when you are in a partnership I'm not saying that's wrong.
No.
But sometimes when it's to a fault.
Well, you don't want to be the person to bring it up and be like, oh, stop telling me about it. And there's always reasons and then they push you away.
Well, and then there's always that don't shoot the messenger type of deal. So so not only was all of this going on, but they were getting the feeling that Matt was trying to erase their daughter, like her existence from their world. So Linda and Jim's granddaughter told them that their dad had taken down all the photos of their mom in their house, which doesn't make sense because after a child loses their parent, you want to keep their memory alive.
Yeah, as long as possible.
Another thing he did was he allegedly told them that they were ready for a new mother. So most concerning, though, Matt and Carrie had been on the Doolin's cell phone plan. So Linda got her phone bill and she was just looking through it. And she noticed a number of phone calls from Matt to Carrie's cell phone that were placed after her death. So over the span of weeks, Matt made approximately 180 phone calls to Carrie's phone and as many as 17 in one single day.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is you want to hear her voice on the voicemail.
On the voicemail. You would think that, but I don't know if it showed that these phone calls lasted some time. So when she confronted him about it, Matt told Linda that he had given Carrie's cell phone to a parishioner in need. And this was a recently divorced single mother who worked as a 6th grade teacher. This is Vanessa Bowles. So Linda's intuition immediately kicked in, and she questioned if there was more to the story than a simple story of what her son-in-law was telling her, that he's a preacher and he was simply counseling this parishioner who was in need.
Thank God she looked into this.
Yes. So Linda started to believe that there was no way in hell that her daughter would have abandoned her living children. She acknowledges that, yes, she was absolutely grieving, but she would not have left her living daughters. So she vowed to learn the truth at that point in time. So since Hewitt authorities didn't want to re-examine Carrie's case because they closed it as a suicide, Linda hired attorney Bill Johnston since she was just convinced that her son-in-law had murdered her daughter. So Johnston brought on Texas Ranger Matt Cawthorn to assist, and they were both critical of the fact how Carrie's case had been handled. They questioned if someone who was wanting to take their own life would have left 2 sleeping pills in a bottle, and whether the 29 sleeping pills they had taken would have killed her in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to take all of them, right? And I feel, that's
2 is just an odd number to leave.
Right.
So they also wondered if Carrie's body would have sufficient time for the level of lividity it reached in the 45-minute window of time that Matt had been gone, because of course they got their hands on the crime scene photos, or not even a crime scene photo because it wasn't a crime scene. From the photos of the scene, they witnessed what it looked like. So not only had the suicide note been typed rather than handwritten, but it also contained grammatical errors that Carrie's loved ones felt were very uncharacteristic of her. She was a school teacher.
Yeah.
And it's just like me, it would bug the crap out of me if there were any grammatical errors.
Yeah, if I left one, you'd be like, no, he wouldn't do that.
Never.
And same with you. It's just like it's something about people, whether it's right or wrong. Like it's really interesting how they can find that. And
I'm going to just go ahead and say that a typed suicide note in my book is highly suspicious.
100%.
I don't know of, statistics.
Yeah.
In cases where it's a staged suicide, how many of the notes are typed rather than handwritten? Because we all know that there's handwriting analysts that can, study them and say, no, this was not her handwriting.
I prefer typing, so maybe you can
sure,
I don't know. It's
you could
easier,
say that.
faster.
So not only that, but the whole note really kind of praised Matt while it blamed Carrie.
Yeah.
So around the time of Carrie's funeral, a preacher had access to her Bible, and they found a handwritten note inside that had been dated April 2nd, 2006. So this was only days before her death. So he was reading these scribbles that were in the pages, and it read, "Lord, be the center of our relationship. Lord, I'm asking you to protect me from harm. I am not sure what is going on with Matt, but Lord, help me find peace with him."
Wow.
So this shows that there was something going on in their relationship that she was asking for strength to deal with.
And she was scared.
Yes. So Carrie's grief counselor also reached out to Linda and told her that Carrie believed that Matt was having an affair. And even more alarming, Carrie told her that she found crushed pills in Matt's briefcase, and she feared that maybe he was going to harm her with these pills. So when Linda confronted her son-in-law about this, he claimed that the kids from the Waco Center for the Youth, where he was working, had put them there because they did not want to take their medicine. And he told her that he reported this incident to security at the center, but it was eventually confirmed that he had never spoken to anyone in security about this.
Why would you make up something that far? Just be like, the kids gave them to me. That's it. Like, don't say that you reported it when you didn't, you idiot. Like, what a complete moron. And then also, it's like when parents find cigarettes on their kids, like, oh, I'm just holding it for a friend. It's like, it's not mine.
It wasn't mine. I always think of Puss in Boots when there's the catnip and he's like, it wasn't mine.
Right.
So it's like people don't think, and they don't give people credit that they're going to investigate, that their word is just going to be taken at face value. So as Johnston began to look into Vanessa Bowles, the woman whose phone bills proved that Matt had been in frequent contact with her, he learned that she was the younger, attractive daughter of the music minister at Matt's church. So that's how they got familiar with each other. And Matt adamantly denied having any sort of relationship with her outside of a friendship, outside of a preacher who was counseling her.
Mm-hmm.
He argued that he often spoke with many friends, and Vanessa was simply no exception whatsoever. So at this point in time, Texas Ranger Cawthorn was unsure where Vanessa fit into any of this. Did she have something to do with what happened to Carrie, or was she somebody that just caught Matt's attention?
Yeah, did Matt tell her about it before he was going to do it?
Right.
Part of the story.
They don't know. So when Matt voluntarily spoke with investigators with the Hewitt Police Department a few months after Carrie's death, he reiterated that he had been gone for somewhere between 40 and 45 minutes when he went to rent this video. He said that when he came home, he found their bedroom door had been locked, and when he managed to pry it open with a screwdriver, this is when he found his wife's nude, lifeless body in their bed. There was empty wine coolers present, as well as a near-empty bottle of over-the-counter sleeping pills. I believe they said it was Unisom. So Johnston and his team found it highly unlikely that in such a small window of time that he was gone, that Carrie could have ingested the drugs, died, and then reached the state of lividity that they had seen in the photos. There were also inconsistencies in Matt's versions of events from that night. There was times that he said that when he left the house, Carrie was asleep, which to me would be weird because if you were leaving the house that late to rent a movie and she was already sleeping, it's not like you guys were going to watch a movie that night. And then in other times, he said that she was awake. And anytime there's inconsistencies in a story, it's a red flag. So he told one officer that the door from the garage to the house was locked. And then he told another officer, no, it was the bedroom door that was locked. So Matt Baker met Carrie Doolin in the summer of 1994 while they were students at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. And they were each working at a summer camp for the First Baptist Church. Carrie was working as a lifeguard. I'm not sure what Matt was doing there, but she had this dream that she would become a teacher and that she would marry a strong man of faith. And when she met Matt, it seemed like he was truly the perfect fit for her.
This is the man she was looking for.
But little did she know that he had been accused of several inappropriate sexual advances toward women during college and even at the summer camp. But in all of these instances, his behavior seemed to be just excused or brushed under the rug, or he would tell a lie and whoever he was telling it to would just believe him. So only 3 months after they met, this was a whirlwind romance. They got married at her parents' house.
Wow.
So everything was quick. So even after they got married, Matt's inappropriate behavior toward women and young girls continued. But somehow he just continued to fly under the radar from punishment. And I don't know if it's because he was a figure in the church, if his actions were just, kind of turned a blind eye.
Yeah, it's just like anybody in power. You always have to wonder, somebody needs to step up, but they also don't want to be that one, that's everybody's looked at and mocked and everything.
And there's something about abusing power that is just so disgusting.
Oh, I hate it.
So Carrie just always seemed to believe in her husband, and she just really couldn't accept that he could possibly be responsible for such horrible actions. So while Carrie went on to get her master's degree from Dallas Baptist University, Matt later attended Baylor's George W. Truett Theological Seminary, and then he went on to become a Baptist preacher. So throughout the years, the couple had 3 daughters together, Kenzie, Cassidy, and Grace. And like I said, sadly in 1998, Cassidy was diagnosed with a brain tumor. She was just a baby. And she had extensive treatment in a hospital where she was treated for months. She apparently had a tracheostomy. It was very, very much involved. And she was, though, I will tell you, she was discharged home with a great prognosis. She seemed to be doing well and improving. However, early one morning on March 22nd, 1999, Matt went into her room and found that she wasn't breathing. And family members couldn't help but notice that while Carrie was inconsolable, Matt seemed unusually calm. And not only that, he didn't seem to be there to comfort his grieving wife when Cassidy was pronounced dead and at her funeral and all of these traumatic times. He just didn't seem to be comforting her. So when Carrie called the oncologist who had been treating Cassidy throughout her battle with cancer, she just wanted to tell the doctor what happened and that Cassidy was gone. And the doctor couldn't understand how Cassidy suddenly passed away because her prognosis had been so good. And the doctor felt so uneasy that she contacted Child Protective Services or CPS. They came out to the house. They spoke with Carrie and Matt. Nothing came of that visit. But a family friend did say that Matt made some kind of comment like, well, now I can get back to work.
Oh, my God.
Like, he almost seemed relieved after Cassidy's death.
I mean, I get it if you're so worried that your kid's doing so bad and it's just like, oh, my gosh, I just wish they were in a better place. But if her prognosis was good,
right.
That's terrible.
And it was so good to the point that the oncologist is like, this just doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up.
And especially well, go back to work. It's like, no, it's not that type of situation, man. Even if she was in a terrible situation, you'd still be sorrowful and just sad and just being like, man, I miss my baby. But
right. And then there was talk of some oxygen monitor that Cassidy would wear to bed, and Matt insisted she didn't need it and she didn't have it on that night.
Great. So he called it his daughter. That's
so
awesome.
There's no proof necessarily
Allegedly.
of that. Allegedly, it just seems very suspicious. So Carrie, who had always been this outgoing, lively young woman, was understandably devastated by the loss of their baby girl, and she was deeply grieving. She sought out counseling, and she wrote passages about Cassidy in her Bible. And when Carrie died, it was only 17 days after the 7th anniversary of her daughter's death. So Bill Johnston felt that police had just simply dropped the ball. There was no autopsy. The death was very quickly classified as a suicide. Despite the fact that Matt told investigators that he found his wife naked, emergency responders, by the time they got to the house, they found Carrie in a t-shirt and underwear. So obviously they were going to ask him about this discrepancy, and he indicated that he dressed her while he was on the phone with the dispatcher. So investigators believe that Carrie hadn't been nude, as Matt had claimed that she was, and that she had actually been wearing what they found her in, the t-shirt and underwear. It took paramedics only 4 minutes to respond to the Baker home, and in that time, he claimed that he dressed her, he moved her to the floor, and he began CPR, all the while cradling the phone on his shoulder without sounding out of breath whatsoever. So Johnston and his team were able to turn up several instances of Matt's sexual advances toward young women during his years in college, as well as throughout his marriage with Carrie. Records that were recovered from Matt's workplace server also made him look that much more guilty. He spent hours upon hours on pornographic websites.
At his church that he's the minister of?
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. And he had searched, this is even more concerning, he had searched terms that included overdose and death by sleeping pills.
Oh my God, what a Dumbass.
So, of course, he was asked about this, and he argued that he only made these searches because he was fearful that his wife could potentially overdose on the sleeping pills that she was routinely taking.
Investigators are like, okay.
Sure. So Matt also searched pharmaceutical websites where Ambien and other drugs could be purchased without a prescription out of the country.
I've done that.
So with this information, the Doolins decided to file a wrongful death lawsuit in July of 2006. This is 3 months after Carrie's death. So when investigators tracked down Vanessa Bowles in August of 2006, she denied having an affair with Matt, and she said she really didn't even know about Carrie's death. You know, I guess when word got around through the grapevine, through the church, she said that's when she knew. So based on the evidence that was obtained in the continuing investigation, the Justice of the Peace, this is Billy Martin, he decided he would reopen his ruling. So Carrie's body was exhumed and an autopsy was done at Southwest Institute of Forensic Science in Dallas. But because of the passage of time, mostly because of the fact that Carrie's body had been embalmed, meaning that all of her blood had been drained, they would not be able to obtain a blood test. So the pathologist was only able to confirm traces of alcohol, Ambien, and Unisom in her muscle tissue at the time of her death. So we know Matt said that when he went into the bedroom, there were wine coolers and the Unisom bottle. There was no mention whatsoever of any Ambien being found in the bedroom. So that's like the outlier of this tissue sample. So neither the time frame nor the amount of the drugs in her system could be determined in order to conclusively say what drugs could have caused her death. You know, were there deadly levels in there? They couldn't say that. So it can be noted, though, that Carrie was not known to take Ambien. She also had no prescription for the medication. So the Doolins hired a toxicology expert from Tennessee who felt that because there were no pills that were found in Carrie's stomach during the autopsy, it's unlikely that she died from an overdose, nor that she died within 45-minute time frame that Matt had been gone, because it takes time for your body to start to digest, the pills and to absorb them into your system. And one would expect that you would find pills in her stomach. So the Justice of the Peace, or JP, held an inquest in August of 2007 and reviewed all of the evidence from the toxicologists, the pathologists, police officers, as well as the Doolins, while Matt Baker, did not testify at this hearing. So at this point, the JP changed his previous ruling of suicide to undetermined. So with that being said, now we can investigate. Yep. So Matt Baker was arrested for murder on September 21st, 2007. And this was based on the improbability of his provided timeline on the night of his wife's death, as well as inconsistencies in his statements during the 911 call, the searches that he had made on both of his office and home computers, as well as the fact that police highly were suspicious of the fact that he was having an affair with Vanessa, despite the fact that both denied this. And this was also based on toxicology reports, as well as the fact that the Justice of the Peace changed the manner of death from suicide to undetermined. All of these things is what led to his arrest. So he was released on bond due to his highly successful defense attorney. This is Guy James Gray, who took on Matt's case pro bono. So Matt told investigators that he left the house right around 11:10 p.m., However, credit card records prove that he rented movies at 11:50 p.m., about 40 minutes later. And then the 911 call was placed at midnight, 10 minutes after he rented the movie. Although they did not believe that it was impossible, medical experts doubted that Carrie overdosed and died within the window of time he was talking about. So photos of Carrie's body were taken at 12:30 in the morning, and they depicted lividity, which can begin to form in as little as 20 minutes. Or up to 2 hours after death is when it starts. So because the photos were not really great quality, they were not very close up, the doctors were unwilling to estimate her time of death based on the pictures alone. Because again, no autopsy was done.
Oh, I hate when people start to come out with stuff and it's like clearly they have something that they're trying to do it. I'd rather have them though say, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, I respect that. So 6 months after his arrest, the murder charges against Matt were suddenly dropped because Assistant DA Crawford Long felt that it was too risky to take him to trial because he felt that the evidence was too speculative and entirely circumstantial. So investigators turned their attention now to Vanessa. And she was interviewed on January 27th, 2009. This is about 3 years after Carrie's death. And she was in the presence of her lawyer. She maintained what she originally told investigators in August of 2006 when they originally talked to her, that she did not have an affair with Matt. So when Vanessa was subpoenaed in a grand jury, her attorney indicated that she planned to take the fifth, but that she did have some information. So they have these cell phone records that prove that they had spoken on many of occasions, and cell phone records also prove that she had been with Matt about a week after Carrie's death. There was also an employee at a jewelry store who reported that they had been shopping for rings.
Oh, that's a big one. That's probably the biggest one out of all of them. Like you can always say, like, I'm just hanging out with my parishioners or whatever it is, but it's like we're shopping for rings. That's huge.
Yeah, and you would think if you were going to do such a thing weeks after your wife died, that maybe you'd go out of town to do such a thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So Matt also removed Carrie's photos and clothing from their house almost immediately and replaced them with pictures of Vanessa and his daughter.
Well, I mean, why would he put Vanessa's pictures in there unless they're dating?
Right, and nothing makes sense.
Okay.
So despite the fact that Vanessa admitted that she frequently spoke with Matt on the phone and they had spent time together, and that they had shopped for rings, that she continued to deny that their relationship was intimate. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So now under oath, Vanessa was asked if Matt ever told her anything about his wife's death, and she dropped a bombshell. She indicated that Matt told her that he killed Carrie for her.
Oh my, well, this is all we've been waiting for, you idiot. Why didn't you say this like years ago?
Not a peep.
God.
So the criminal DA instructed the prosecution to prepare a murder indictment against Matt Baker and present it to a grand jury that very afternoon.
Yeah, we got him.
In the meantime, the prosecution believed that Vanessa was still withholding further information and sent investigator Abdon Rodriguez to speak with her. This is a guy who has a solid reputation for getting suspects to confess.
I'd love to be that guy. It sounds awesome.
Right? So Rodriguez spoke with Vanessa on March 31st, and she was given immunity. She was told whatever you tell us in testimony would not be used against her.
Perfectly fine.
So she went on to repeat what she said in front of the grand jury, but as soon as he turned the tape recorder off, she finally admitted that she and Matt had slept together one time in the master bedroom of the Baker's home before Carrie's death. So while Carrie was at work, this guy had sex with her in their bed.
You can't, that's not admissible though. It's not on record.
Right. So they're just working towards it, everything.
Okay.
So now moving forward to September 2nd, Vanessa spoke with a team of investigators and prosecutors. And over the course of 4 hours, where she elaborated about her relationship with Matt and what she knew about Carrie's death. So according to Vanessa, Matt began flirting with her in November or early December of 2005, and their flirtation only escalated by mid-December. And he would say things to her like, "Don't date that guy, only date your preacher." He would often horrifically disparage his wife during their conversations. He confessed that he had cheated on Carrie in the past, but it was something that she never had a clue about. He said that he was the primary caretaker of their 2 daughters because she was so depressed she couldn't even be a mother to her daughters.
Maybe step up and be a good husband.
So he said that Carrie was lazy and their girls did not like their mother. So Matt told Vanessa that Carrie was hideous and that if he and Vanessa fell in love, he would find a way out of his marriage.
What a terrible husband, father, and a man of God. What a terrible, terrible human being.
Piss poor. So Vanessa indicated that in February of 2006, this is 2 months before Carrie's death, her relationship with Matt turned sexual. She said that by March, Matt began discussing ways that Carrie could die. He considered tampering with her brakes or arranging maybe a drive-by shooting. He also mentioned hanging Carrie and staging it so that it looked like a suicide. He specifically mentioned that he tried to purchase Rohypnol, which is the date rape drug, roofies, in order to incapacitate her so that he could do something to make it look like a suicide. So Matt told Vanessa that he finally came up with a solid plan. He was going to slip something into her drink, type a letter, and stage the scene to look like a suicide. When he told Vanessa that he was planning on typing Carrie's suicide note, Vanessa said that that was a bad idea, but Matt indicated that Carrie typed everything, so it wouldn't be uncharacteristic. He also felt confident because the anniversary of Cassidy's death was looming that Carrie was obviously grieving her death. Everybody knew that, so that maybe no one would question the fact that she had taken her own life. So 2 weeks before Carrie died, Matt told Vanessa that he put some sort of medication in a milkshake that he made for Carrie. But when she tasted it, she refused to drink it because she complained that it tasted like lead. So investigators later found an email to help corroborate this story that Matt sent to Carrie's work account from around this date, and he wrote that he would make her a better drink than the one that he made her the night before because he would put more chocolate into it. So on Friday morning, April 7th, this is 1 day before her death, Vanessa was aware that Matt planned another attempt at ending Carrie's life during a planned date night that they had scheduled for that evening. So by Saturday morning, Vanessa was awoken by her parents who told her that Carrie was dead. And of course, being in a church, word quickly spread through the church. Vanessa and her parents actually went to the Doolin home, Linda and Jim's, house, and to offer their condolences to them. And as they were leaving, Matt followed them out, probably saying like, "Oh, let me walk you to the car." And when it was just the two of them looking at each other, he winked at her, as they were driving away. So Vanessa told investigators that she went back to Matt's house on Wednesday. This is 4 days after Carrie's death. And his daughters at this point in time were at school, so it was just them at the house. So while they were sitting together in the living room, he told her the full details of Carrie's murder. He said that he pulled apart some sexual stimulant capsules, and he filled them with Ambien, which he gave to Carrie. And she believed that she was taking some sort of over-the-counter stimulant as part of their fun date night that they were having together. But instead, Matt took the sexual stimulants himself, and he gave Carrie the ones that were spiked with Ambien. So as Carrie started to feel groggy from Ambien, he took her to the bedroom. He handcuffed her to the bed under the guise of this spicy...
We're having some fun.
Yeah, spicy date night. And he started to engage in foreplay, just biding his time until she fell asleep, which she did. So at this point in time, Carrie was snoring, but she was still alive. And Matt told Vanessa that he kissed her on the forehead and told her to give Cassidy either a hug or a kiss for him, and then he placed a pillow over her face. So Carrie began to struggle and thrash. She was thrashing her face back and forth, but because of the Ambien that was, suppressing her being awake, as well as the fact that she was handcuffed, she was unable to fight him off. He told Vanessa that he removed the pillow from her face because he believed at this point that she was dead. But then her eyes suddenly flew open and she took this enormous gasp of air. And then he put the pillow back over her face and made sure that he put pressure around her mouth and nose. So when now he was sure she was dead, he removed the handcuffs, he typed the suicide note in their home computer. He took Carrie's hand and rubbed the letter over her hand just in case they were going to check it for fingerprints. And then he placed both the note and the bottle of sleeping pills at the bedside table. And then he left to go rent this movie.
So how do we know this whole part of the story? This is what Matt was telling Vanessa?
This is exactly what Matt told Vanessa.
Okay, so he told her the whole thing.
Yes. So he said that after he staged the scene, Matt left the house in order to establish an alibi. He rented the movie. He got gas for his car. And before he left, he locked the bedroom door and he left their 5- and 9-year-old daughters sleeping in the house alone with their mother's now deceased body. So when police arrived, they never checked the home computer to see if a suicide note had been taped.
Nice.
Or typed, I should say. They never took the computer as evidence. The wine coolers on the bedside table were also nothing. There was no investigation outside of taking photos of her body and having a conversation with the justice of the peace.
Because a good preacher would never do that.
Right. And that's just so gross to just assume that this human being is so godly when he's doing all these atrocious things.
Yep.
So Vanessa said that Matt sent her an MP3 of the song Dirty Little Secrets by the All-American Rejects.
I'll keep you my dirty little secret.
You got it, Mike. And he reminded her that if she told anyone what he had just told her, that she would be his next regret.
Oh my God.
Ugh.
What a dork and narcissist and psychopath. This guy sucks.
So Vanessa started to feel uncomfortable with the whole situation. And by July of 2006, she ended her relationship with Matt and had no further contact with him. So in March of 2009, Matt was rearrested and charged with Carrie's murder. So the trial began in January of 2010, and the state's star witness was Vanessa, because really,
that's all they got.
That's what they've got. But up until that point, Matt continued to maintain that he never had an inappropriate affair with Vanessa or anyone else until his own defense attorney, Guy James Gray, stood in front of the court and admitted that his client had indeed had an affair.
Oh, is that like allowed? I mean, I don't know. Oh, interesting.
So Gray later indicated that he realized that Matt was lying about his involvement with Vanessa about a month before the trial was set to start, while he maintained that Carrie had ended her own life due to her fragile emotional state. So he's basically saying, yeah, he did have this affair. It doesn't mean he killed his wife.
How does this guy Gray know that he had the affair? Because he told him?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure he's not just like, I think he did. I can't represent him anymore.
He knew.
Okay.
So meanwhile, Linda Doolin was forced to sit there and listen to these stories about her daughter. Oh, she was so depressed. She couldn't even care for her daughters. That's all a bunch of crap, because her daughter wasn't there to defend herself.
Yep.
So Gray spoke about the lack of physical evidence and that there was no cause of death even, solidified, because they couldn't. By the time she was embalmed, they had no blood sample. They couldn't even be certain if it was murder. So Assistant DA Crawford Long indicated that this was the most difficult case that he had ever prosecuted. So meanwhile, witness after witness testified about Carrie's mental state and the fact that Carrie had actually been looking forward to an interview she had scheduled for a new teaching position. And this was something that was actually scheduled for the day that she died. Her grief counselor also disputed Matt's claims that Carrie was a despondent, dysfunctional parent, because that was not true. So on day 3 of the trial, Linda herself testified that after her daughter's death, Carrie's grief counselor had called her and said, she found these crushed pills in Matt's briefcase, and that Carrie was afraid that he was, planning to harm her. So prosecutor Susan Schaefer believes that Matt wasn't even in the room with his wife while he spoke with the dispatcher. He sounded very calm on the call. So Matt told investigators that he found his wife on her back with both arms stretched out flat on the bed. He actually drew a diagram of how he claimed that he found her body to be. However, crime scene photos depict an uneven pooling of blood or lividity in Carrie's arms, which completely contradict this statement, because had she been laying exactly how he said she was, it would have been even. There was more lividity on her left arm as opposed to her right arm. So this would have meant that her left arm had been lower, likely hanging over the side of the bed. So Dr. Sridhar Najarian, chief medical examiner at Lubbock County ME office, testified that when he reviewed the photos from both the crime scene as well as the autopsy, he noted a mark on Carrie's nose, which was consistent with a pillow being held over her face. So the jury also heard that Matt visited online pharmacies regarding purchasing Ambien. Mark Henry, who is the owner of a website from Spain, indicated that Matt attempted to buy a generic form of Ambien. He actually placed it into his online shopping cart, while defense attorney Gray argued that he never actually went through with the purchase. And according to Henry, many potential customers get this far. They put it in their cart, but then a message pops up that shipping would take 2 weeks, and then they often abandon it. And that was the case for Matt. He never had actually purchased that Ambien, and they had no records to prove that he had purchased it elsewhere.
That's tough, because he had it from somewhere.
Right. It was in her system. So on day 4 of the trial, 27-year-old Vanessa Bowles took the stand, and she admitted that for years she lied about her relationship with Matt. This was something the prosecution worried would make her an unreliable witness. Had she been willing to lie to people's faces for years, she would be willing to sit on the stand and lie as well.
Yep.
She told the jury that she met Matt at the church in the fall of 2005, and this was a time when she was going through a divorce and becoming a single mom. According to Vanessa, Matt often complained about Carrie, and he often said horrible things about her. He called her a horrible wife and a mother. They no longer had sex. This was something that Vanessa believed was true at the time. So when Matt invited her to his home in early March of 2006, she said that this was when they had sex for the first time. He asked her, he's such a manipulator. They were sitting on their couch and he asked if he could hold her hands and that they could pray together.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, he started kissing her and then led her to the bedroom that he shared with his wife.
He's using God to have sex with this girl.
100%.
Good.
Vanessa said that after they did this and consummated their relationship, that she was extremely remorseful afterwards, but she did admit that their affair continued while Matt's bitterness toward his wife only grew. And he said that he wanted her out of his life, and then only weeks later, Carrie was gone. So after Carrie's death, Matt told Vanessa that he was going to tell her what happened just one time and one time only, and then he never wanted to discuss it again. And he did. He told her everything. So Vanessa admitted that she was aware that Matt was planning on killing Carrie. And this was something that Linda was so pained by that her daughter's death could have been prevented. It could have stopped. She knew that that was happening on their supposed date night.
And Vanessa could have just stepped up to the plate and told police, told somebody. I mean, she was afraid for her own safety also, but at the same time, man, you have that kind of information, share it.
You could have saved a life. And at that point in time, Matt was not threatening Vanessa. He was still wooing her and like, we can have this life together once she's gone.
That's what she was picturing, and that's why she didn't say anything.
Yeah, so when I watched one video on this case, a lot of the commenters were like, she should be charged too. But remember, she was given immunity for her testimony.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes, 100%. She could have prevented this woman's death.
Yep.
And that is something she should have ended up in jail for. But because of her testimony, we're trying to get Matt here.
Right.
So only 2 weeks after Carrie's death, Vanessa was at Matt's side. They were acting as a couple together. She was assisting him in hosting his daughter Kenzie's 10th birthday party. How alarming is that?
Did the other people not see that they were together? Like, I mean, I'm sure they weren't together.
They were probably like, she's a support system to me.
Right.
Because I was going to, like, that's just such a bad look if you've, like, got this other woman suddenly in your life.
He's a narcissist. He doesn't care.
So when she was asked if she was fearful that Matt could also be capable of murdering her one day, she admitted that it was something she thought about, but he promised her that he would be so happy he would never hurt her.
And he also promised in front of God, like, till death do us part. I guess he did kill her. So, but to having to hold and whatever, all that stuff. Like, it's like you promise a lot of things. Doesn't matter to him.
Like, I always think in my mind, a relationship that starts with an affair is already on very rocky foundation, because you can't deny the fact that if he or she could do this to somebody else, they could very well do it to you. Can you imagine starting a relationship on, an affair plus murder?
Yeah, no, that's pretty bad.
Like, how did you guys meet? Well, let's see. We cheated on each other and then he killed his wife.
No, the story would be at church and whatever. And like, yeah, but that's like, in the back of your
I'm
head.
saying, like, if they told, like, that's your meet, cute.
Yeah, really cute.
Murder and an affair. So she said she continued to date him and she never came forward about what she knew regarding his involvement in Carrie's death because she was afraid. She argued that she feared that Matt was a preacher, and because he was, no one in the community would believe what she had to say. So she said she felt like she was stuck. And she started to then, worry that he would kill her. And I mean, I would too.
Yeah.
So defense attorney Gray called only one witness forward. This is a forensic expert who speculated that the traces of DNA that were found on the suicide note could be Carrie's. But Vanessa told investigators that according to Matt, he did take the suicide note and wipe it on Carrie's hand.
Yeah,
So,
that's easily explainable.
There you go. And Matt never did testify in his own defense. So the jury deliberated for 7.5 hours. And Mike, what do you think?
Guilty.
Yes. They found Matt Baker guilty of first-degree murder, and Linda Doolin was flooded with relief that he would never again be able to hurt anyone else. Because even during college, he was doing some bad things to women and getting away with it. And then it escalated to the point that he was willing to get rid of his wife so that he could move on with this other girl.
Yeah.
And then he's going to get bored with her and do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So following the verdict, Matt's attorney, Guy James Gray, admitted that he stopped trusting his client once he confessed that he was lying about the affair with Vanessa. He no longer believed really anything that his client had to say.
Why would he cover his case pro bono?
So I think in the beginning, he did believe him.
Was he like a person that went to the church?
Not that I know of.
I don't understand. Like, why?
So he did request, once he found out that Matt had an affair with Vanessa, he requested to be taken off the case, while Matt insisted that he remain his lawyer. And Gray indicated that never in his life had he been forced to go to trial in a case that he did not believe in. So when Linda Doolin was given the chance to address Matt, she said, "You haven't looked at me in almost 4 years. Can you look at me today? You murdered the mother of your children. But the most tragic victims, Matt, are Kenzie and Grace, those sweet, sweet babies." So in January of 2010, 38-year-old Matt Baker was sentenced to 65 years in prison. During his sentencing, 4 women testified that Matt had made unwanted sexual advances toward them, including one who complained to a police officer in an attempt of, getting a sexual assault case established. It also came to light that he utilized his church-issued laptop, as well as the computer that he worked on at the youth center in order to look at pornographic websites. And he also frequented sites that encouraged men or women who wanted to have an affair with on the partner.
Yeah.
So a year and a half after Matt went to prison, Jim and Linda Doolin were now back in court to seek custody of their 2 granddaughters. They had been living in the meantime with Matt's parents. So sadly, Kenzie and Grace had been taught to hate their maternal grandparents, since they were basically portrayed as villains who caused this whole upheaval in their lives. They were brainwashed to believe that their dad was innocent and that their maternal grandparents had done all of this.
Wow.
So during the custody trial that took place in Kerrville, Texas in 2011, when Kenzie was 15 and Grace was nearly 11, the Doolins accused Barbara and Oscar Baker of parental alienation for ruining their once loving relationship with their granddaughters. So during the trial, it came out that the Bakers ran a foster home in Kerrville. So during much of Matt's early childhood, he grew up with many, many foster children, as many as 50 altogether. So now these foster children are adults in their 40s. Some of these then children came to the courtroom in Kerrville to accuse their former foster parents of abuse. So one woman, this is Betsy Maloney, who is mentally handicapped, accused Barbara of mocking her and calling her disparaging names such as Porky Pig and Fatso in the house in the presence of other foster children. Not only that, she encouraged the other foster children to join in on the name calling.
What a great foster mother. Jesus.
And she also accused Oscar of touching her in what she referred to as the wrong places.
Oh.
So another former foster child, this is Lori Miller Hardin, she recalled that Betsy was the butt of the jokes. And she also accused Oscar of inappropriate behavior, such as tracing a finger down the lower portion of her buttocks and down her right leg. Connie Murfarki told the court that when she was only 12, Oscar French kissed her. And another child, Millie Van Steenberg, accused Oscar of sexually abusing her beginning when she was as young as 7 years old. So Barbara and Oscar denied any of these accusations, and no criminal charges of abuse had ever been filed against them, although at one point Betsy prompted an investigation when she complained to counselors about her treatment in the home, but they were cleared of any wrongdoing. And these are children, they're vulnerable, they're in foster homes, they're probably afraid to speak up, so no, there hadn't been any complaints.
Right.
So when Matt was 10 years old, the Bakers suddenly stopped running their foster home. They indicated that they made this decision because their 2 biological children, Matt and Stacy, were unhappy with this arrangement. However, during an interview with Matt in 2007, he described the years that his parents were fostering children as the happiest of his life. So that contradicted the reason why they said they pulled out of the foster, parenting.
Yeah, who knows who's saying the truth and who's not.
So some people wonder if maybe Matt Baker, who was also accused of many inappropriate behaviors toward women, who was working as a youth minister and chaplain, maybe had learned behavior from his childhood.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Who knows? So 15-year-old Kenzie Baker testified that she wanted to stay with the Bakers, but 10 of the 12 jurors voted to transfer custody of her and her little sister to their maternal grandparents. And they were also ordered to have no contact whatsoever with their father. So during a 2013 interview, things started to calm down. This is when they had been with their grandparents right around maybe 2 years. So they indicated that their home is their girls' home, their granddaughters. They have made it their safe space. Then 12-year-old Grace loved the arts. She participated in the band and she played the piano. And she was just an absolute joy to be around. And meanwhile, Kenzie, who was nearing 17 years old, she was super excited about graduating from high school and going to college. And Jim said that she was an absolute hoot to be around. And he said that, you know, when he's sitting there in his home and he sees his wife and his granddaughters all laughing together, he sees Carrie in them. And every day he knows that she would be relishing in what they were experiencing together. And that is the sad murder of Carrie Baker.
Man, what a whirlwind. There's so many different things involved here between how Matt was raised poorly and his parents are potential sickos. And oh man, there's so many sad stories. Like this is like, you look around, if your life is just like halfway decent and you know, you haven't been molested, it's like, man, I've gotten off scot-free pretty much. There's so many horrible stories out there.
And what really gets me is that he like had done all these awful things in college of putting these girls in very uncomfortable positions. Like, do not touch me. Do not come into my personal space. And he just thought he could get away with everything because he did.
Yeah.
And then as he got older and he got more control and power and he is the head of the church, he took advantage of that.
He sure did, as much as he could. And he used it as a move to get a girl to sleep with him. Like, let's pray. Oh, hey, look where your hand is. Like, that's disgusting. What a scumbag.
Talk about shady shit, because she was there trying to get counseling because she was going through a hard time, going through a divorce, transitioning into being a single parent, and he took advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man. I hope somebody beats him alive in prison or wherever he is.
And I'm not saying that Vanessa is innocent by any means, because she could have stopped Carrie from being murdered had she gone to authorities and said what he was planning to do. But maybe she thought they'd think that's ridiculous and they wouldn't believe her. I don't know. But it's just sad all around.
That's not even worth talking about because the cops already said that she can get off as long as she tells the truth. So it's like, what should she have? Yeah, absolutely. But she didn't.
Yeah.
And she was manipulated by this scumbag. So at least he's in prison. But man, what a sad story. Well, thank you for telling the story. Appreciate it. If you want to hear more stories, there's more bonus episodes available wherever you listen to podcasts. And we really appreciate your time and everything. We're going to be back next week, next Sunday, every single Sunday with a free episode. Somebody's like, hey, well, you guys have a bunch of bonus episodes. Like every Sunday, there's this free episode. So listen to all those, okay?
Exactly. And if you want extra content, you can listen to the Wednesdays. But we're here for you. We've got you covered on all the episodes. Sadly, there is no shortage of these horrible cases to go around.
Yep. And if you have any suggestions on cases, just go to our Instagram page and click on the link there. And there's a show suggestion area, one of those links.
Yeah, I really do appreciate all of our episode suggestions. And we just thank you guys. We hope you have a wonderful week. And until next time, bye.